Hey there, I'm here with Eric Lefebvre, and you probably know Sam. So Eric is would you call yourself an expert on copper agates? I would.
I definitely do a lot of copper agates. I wouldn't know many people who do too many more. There's definitely some people who probably know more and have done more than me, but not a lot. Definitely only a couple of the older timers probably, and maybe one or two people around my age. But
So he's going to tell us about the process of doing those, and I guess we'll start here with the rough ore, huh?
so we got a piece of rough ore here. You go to the place, and the places where you historically collected these are pretty much off limits. There are a couple of the smaller spots that have been really picked over that you can kind of get to, but the main ones you hear about are you really shouldn't go to. So I'm not going to tell you about those ones, but there are a couple of ones, the smaller ones. If you do the research, like that are not so much. They are. You can definitely go to those ones. But so this one came from Wolverine. But the other ones, there's the C&H 21 and the St. Louis mine are the ones that aren't. You can still find them. Good luck though. I haven't found many of those ones though. I still go to them because that's the only place you can get them pretty much anymore now. But it is a tough dig to get those ones there. But those ones are a good place if you're going to try. St. Louis mine is one of the nicest places you can find them. I've only found one there though. So good luck with St. Louis, but if you're going to try and find one, St. Louis or the CH1 are probably the places to check out these days.
So why don't we start by showing us how you extract one?
Okay, so here's one of the pieces here. It's going to be hard to see, but usually you're going to find it with a metal detector. And then I use a small anvil I got from Harbor Freight. I don't know if you can see that part, sorry. And the key is to have the right tools. It's always with the right tool. And so this piece has it's not too big, so it's going to be pretty easy. So I can probably use my bigger chisel without having to worry about too much. And I use a ball peen hammer a lot of times, but I also have a crack hammer here. And I have bolt cutters. Bolt cutters save a lot of effort because the amount of times you have the little spit there, and you're trying to get off with this little chisel, it's tough. So you get this piece here, and then you want to try and find where the things are. They're going to match up to. It's easy to break. So the fracture line is going to go through right there, and I'm going to try and pop this one out right there. It should be pretty easy. Oh, see right there. Boom, copper agate. So now the problem is it's kind of in a weird spot there. That's going to try and grab it. It loves to have little fingers, and because the copper, how it grows into it, it almost has little tendrils that grow into the rock sometimes, and it loves to stick with it. So I'm probably going to try and see if I can get that little notch off ahead of time. That way when I break it, it's not going to break it as likely because it loves to do that. Let me tell you. Let's see. So now I'm going to try and break it along this line right here so I can get this open more, and hopefully it'll cooperate. Because see, it didn't cooperate. It did the exact opposite. It kind of did it on the other side. So now we're going to try and...
That's the camera does that, I think.
They just do love to be like that. So now I'm in this issue where if I hit it wrong, it's going to break into that. But if I can hold it up, it's trying to not let me do it. Let's just go for broke. Well, it's here.
You got it?
See, it's still stuck in there. It just loves to not come out. So that's when we get these guys out here. Start trying to break away at it. Oh, see? It cracked. It's okay. We'll still get it going. But now we'll actually...
So using that to cut the copper, actually?
Now I'm trying to cut the rock off around it, but
Okay.
It's not cooperating.
I didn't know if there was some
Speaking of
copper
which,
sticking out.
I'm actually just kind of hoping this one has copper, because I didn't... There we go. So it's out. See, we got that little break there. You can see a little copper in it too. See if this piece just comes off at this point. So I'm looking at this, and this... It might be a copper agate. It's hard to say, because it's kind of a weird spot here. So something, it's easier to find what is not a copper agate than what is a copper agate. Like if there's too much epidote, you never want the green ore, or you don't want the actual like crystallization epidote. That always means it's not going to be copper agate. If there's orange feldspar in the shell, you know, that's always going to end up not being either. Sometimes there's a little calcity in with the feldspar ones, but almost even when it does, it never like bands with it. And always this kind of weird blob thing. But generally, if I see any feldspar in the nodules, I ditch them. But then there's like, I think it's called polyphils. I should have looked it up ahead of time. But it's a weird name that for different kind of a mineral. These minerals right here. Sometimes these are orange, and that's the only time orange is a good thing. And the screen is there too, but you don't want it in the nodules. You want it to be on the outside. And that's one of the big things. Like, see right here? You don't want that. You don't want that to be in the nodule. So that's probably not as good as a piece of ore as I would have liked it to have been.
All right, so Sam, you just got done with your second year at Michigan Tech, which is kind of known for geology and stuff. So what's your major?
I'm studying mechanical engineering and mining engineering, so I get a fair bit of geology classes in there, mineralogy, some other classes as well. And I also do a lot of research on the side, so I understand what I'm looking for.
All right, so he knows a lot more about geology than I do at this point. So tell us about agates. How do these copper agates form?
Most agates up here in the Keweenaw and up in just the UP area in general, as well as in Canada, formed in vesicular basalt. So it's basalt that has air bubbles in it. Those air bubbles of basalt got filled in the bubbles with water that had lots of different minerals and elements. So we're not entirely sure how the bands and agates form, but we're pretty sure it's some sort of cycle where water comes in and out, and so we get cool agates that deposit silica. So that's basically quartz. Agates are a form of quartz. And then in the Keweenaw and a few select places, there's a lot of copper-rich water that deposited copper as well. So that kind of replaced some of the silica in the agates, creating copper replacement agates. This is what we're looking at here today.
So we got the little raw one that we just got out of the rock there. And so we're going to start on the flat lap, because the problem with copper is you use water to make sure you don't heat the rocks up enough to melt your diamonds on your wheels or your flat lap. But the epoxy melts at a much lower temperature than the actual diamonds themselves. So the copper, even with the water, if you have enough copper and you do it too hard, too fast, it will eventually melt the epoxy off your wheels and strip them of the diamonds. So a lot of times you'll get bald spots, and I actually have to resurface my own wheels quite frequently, even doing this extra step. So I use as a metal bonded hard disc on my flat lap originally to start them and get them going. That way I can see which ones are good and have anything going on before I do the full final steps and kind of save myself a lot of time.
So when you say wheels, you mean on a cabbing machine?
Yeah.
So we start here and then you move to a cabbing machine?
Yep.
Okay.
I start with here, and then what we're going to do after we get this start, I'll show you. I glue into a nail, and then so this is one that you have like right here. This is a finished one. But you glue into these nails, and you use acetone you soak them in acetone for a couple hours, and they'll pop right off. And that's one of the easiest ways to do it for these small ones like that. So let's see how this one goes. This one might have some promise. You definitely see some copper in there, but you don't see any chalcedony. But sometimes it's kind of hidden behind that kind of weirdness there. And I'm hoping this opens up a little bit. It has some possibility. So let's get some water in here, and we're just gonna do this we're gonna see if we can open up the back of it just to see what's going on inside of it. So you start here, and no, I don't do out here. A lot of times I try to clean up the edge a little bit, because you always want to get yourself ready to do a good girdle. The real key for jewelers is they want a girdle.
And the girdle's a little flat spot around the outside edge.
Yeah, and that you can patch the silver a lot easier to hold it in with the jewelry. And also just kind of helps. So let's see. It's like we're getting a little shine there. That's after that little bit of time. So I'm going to try and skip ahead and do this. We'll do the top a little bit. And the key thing here is if you're using your wheels, you got to be a lot more gentle on it. You got to worry about it. So see, this one's still hard to say. I'm seeing a lot of the green there, and that's not usually a good sign. But let's get a little deeper. On your own wheels, I wouldn't recommend pushing that hard. So we got looks like there's some bands going on there. Looks like it might be a little eye there. until you get a little deeper. That's the problem too. Is it's until you're really all the way in there. It kind of has flashes because they all kind of form a similar way there. Even if they don't turn into agates, sometimes they'll get different pieces. It'll have the agate looking stuff, but then it'll be filled with like chlorite or like calcite or any kind of number weird little things. I'm trying to see if we can get through that green edge there. Yeah, it doesn't look like this one's going to turn out, unfortunately.
So, if it did turn out, how long does this whole process take to polish one?
So, on the individual stone, it's kind of hard to say, but it can take anywhere from 20 minutes to several hours, especially when there's like very, very heavy copper. So, like here's a good example when that was finished. And the problem with copper is it also doesn't like to fracture off. It likes to just melt a little bit and it gets soft. So your diamonds don't really nick off pieces of it quite like you do with like rocks. And so you get this big old chunk of copper. It just takes forever to cut through. There's actually a little gob of silver right there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know if you can. It's kind of hard to see.
Yeah, I think I can.
That's another part of the reason why I didn't want to go too deep in this one. You know, it has these nice bands that go right there. And here's some of the raw ones. This is kind of what they look like when I get it. So I get the flat back like this, and I'm going to glue that to a nail. This one's kind of lumpily shaped. That's why I haven't really kind of finished it. And so what I'll probably have to do is cut all the way through these parts, these high parts. You'd think you'd want to follow the contour. Usually you don't. Not in this kind of situation. Sometimes you do, but...
So you just grind all the high parts right off?
All the way through.
All right.
Anytime I've tried to like save big high points like that, it's just ended up burning me in the end.
Okay.
Here's a really nice one to... This is another finished one.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the nicer ones. And there's still kind of a weirdness there because it's hard to get into the little edges there. They love to have these little edges. And here's another broken little piece of it. See, that's what I would do normally is I'd flatten the back and I'd glue it to nail, and then here's the top of it. So it doesn't really look like much until you grind into it.
So wait, where's the... This is the good part, right?
Yeah, there's the agate station right there.
I thought you were saying the opposite for a minute.
Oh, yeah, well, no, this is the bottom. And then I'd cut into the top.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's not the good part. That's the back.
Yeah, you can see how the eyes fall right there. So in theory, they'll have patterns going there. Although this one cracked, that's why I haven't really finished this one for a while.
Okay.
You can see how the patterns fall through there. And in general, the copper will fall through like that too. Although on occasion, it'll actually be the bottom that's better, and I'll actually just end up popping it off and flattening the top that I just polished and redoing the back, because sometimes it's hard to tell until you come to the tops there. And usually I try to do a little bit, but just so I can tell, but it's not an exact science.
All right, Sam's got one that he found's been working on.
Yeah, it's got a couple nice bands there. Did this one a while ago. Just brought it out for show. So
That's really cool.
a lot of quartz on that end, but
Nice. Beautiful.
Well, here we are at our final step of the process. We got the ore, we got the nodules, we broke them out with the chisels, and we just prepped them on the flat lap, and then we got them glued to a nail right here. So here's one that has, you can see how like it looks like there's kind of a little bit banding around. There's a little more chlorite than I like in this one. That's why this one also hasn't finished, because it's not super exciting. But that's the thing is, you see these bands right there, and it does look like it has some potential in there. But these kinds of ones, sometimes the chlorite goes all the way through, and it ends up not working out. But it has potential, so we could definitely see. But what we would do from there is we would take this and we would take it to the wheels here. And one of the key steps I have is I use a 50 grit soft wheel here, and it's the no 50 grit soft wheel. And that's a big difference, because when you use hard wheels, it tends to fracture a lot of these things. I do have the 220 grit hard wheel, but the wheel, I'm not sure exactly why. For greenstone, it's a little more of a problem. But I just try to avoid fractures as much as I can. So it's nice to have the soft wheel, but boy, it does take a little longer. But if you start on the soft wheel and the 280, you're gonna not like what you're doing. So it's nice to have start with the soft wheel. I avoid the 220 and I just skip right to the 280. And these are the two wheels I resurface the most. I've actually never had to resurface these ones, because you don't spend a lot of time on once you get these going through, especially with the Nova. When you switch from not Nova to Nova, Nova just blows away through the water. This is not paid advertising for Nova.
No, but those Nova wheels cost a lot more, and there's a reason for it. I mean, they're worth a lot more.
They are by far the biggest single upgrade on any lapidary thing I've ever seen. Like, you get a better saw or better saw blade, you're not going to notice a big difference. You go from regular wheels to Nova, you will notice the difference, let me tell you.
So can you talk just real briefly about how you resurface these?
So what I do is, the key is you need to find the motor that turns slowly, but not too fast, because you want it to make it nice and even. I found an old ice cream machine maker at a Goodwill. So I took a stick and I kind of whittle it so the end fits in the hole, and I put them on the stick and I hold it. I have a thing that kind of holds them there, and it will continues to turn. I have epoxy 220, and I mix it with diamond grit. And the thing with diamond grit is you need to use mesh number, not the grit number. It's kind of confusing. Like if you want to resurface like a 3000 grit wheel, it is not 3000 mesh. I'm not sure what the mesh number is, but it's 320 mesh, I'm pretty sure, for the 280 wheel. So that was the thing that got me a little confused, is looking for the mesh number over the grit number. So you get those resurfaced, and the big thing with that is because the copper, when it melts, you don't want it to, your wheels will get these bald spots. Let's see if this one. So there's a bald spot right there. This one has a big bald spot right there.
So you've got this turning really slow on that slow motor, and then you just sort of apply the epoxy with the diamond.
Yeah, you want to mix it to be kind of like about a peanut butter kind of consistency. And I like to use a popsicle stick to try, and the key is I get it over all of it and I try to smooth it out. The big thing is you want to try and make it as smooth as possible, and it'll smooth itself out a little bit. But if you leave it lumpy, it won't unlump itself. So you got to keep it, do your best you can. It's hard to do more than one wheel at a time with my setup. There's certainly more efficient ways to get like a bunch of wheels going at a time. But this works really great for a couple wheels if you just have your own wheels you're doing. If you want to try and make a business out of it, I would not recommend doing it that way. You're going to want a better setup. But it works pretty good for what it is. And they don't work as good as a brand new Nova wheel, but they're a lot cheaper. And the material itself is like one of the bigger aspects of it, just having that nice padding that also like is able to hold itself. It's a neat material. So you get those, and it's nice to have the new surface on there. And so when you get those all done, you go from the different things, and you got the cerium oxide, cerium oxide pad on the end there. And it's important to use your mask. I don't have a mask on right now. I probably should a little bit, but we're not kicking up a lot of stuff. But normally I always have a mask on when I'm just kind of doing this little stuff, but as long as I'm not messing with it too much. And this is very, very helpful. You gotta get these things. This is, I think, a 10 times one. I forget exactly.
Optivisor, I think they call this.
Optivisor. They are hugely important for these kinds of like small stones. If you're doing big stones, it's not a huge deal, but like when you're doing small stones, especially with copper agates, where you're trying to sit there and look at when the band, like the band needs to become more visual, and it pops out more at you. You don't want to wait until it's super big, and so you can you follow the lines a little better, and just follow things better, and just be able to see is always a lot more helpful. You can't go wrong with that. And so
you were saying you use the edge of the wheels on these?
One of the things about it is a lot of these have these weird, they love to have this weird shape to them. So if you try to just do a flat on these kinds of ones, it's not going to go so well. So I actually, one of the big cool parts about being able to do your own is I can put some metal or some diamond on the edge there. It wears off a little faster, but you can kind of see, it's hard to see, it goes in a little bit there. But I usually try to do more into the wheel, because then you can get on the edges a little better. Oh, so that just popped right off there. One of the things about super glue is it's great for about 2 weeks, and then it kind of becomes a little fragile. So I have a bad habit of not finishing my stones. I'll put a lot more on there, and then I finish. Because I get all excited about all of them, and then I go to do it. I'm like, well, these ones are the really nice ones. I'll do the other ones later.
I think everybody does that. I have a whole pile of unfinished projects that I'm not super excited about.
Yeah, so, when I first started doing this, I noticed I was like, wow, they have all these things set up for it. And I thought it was weird, but then I started doing it myself. It's hard not to, because you get like 30. It's kind of like when you are making yourself a big plate at a buffet. Your eyes are bigger than your stomach sometimes.
All right, so I know people are going to be asking to see some eye candy here. So do you have anything you could show us?
I think I might. I got a couple here.
Wow. All right, so what do you have in your hand there?
So this is my fanciest one I've ever found. I like to call it fancy. This one has little dialite eyes in there, and it's got all the band in here.
I think fancy works for that one.
Yeah.
Fancy schmancy even. That's awesome.
This is the one everyone wants me to sell, but this is the one I'll probably never sell unless I manage to find a better one.
Take a guess what that might sell for?
I would easily get $450 for this one, but that'd be a quick, easy sale. It'd probably about a $600 agate on for like if I was gonna actually want to sell it. but I don't really want to sell it. So unless someone wants to offer me a couple $1,000s, this one's staying with me.
I have some rocks like that, even just the sentimental value of them. It's like, that's my best one I ever found. I don't want to give it up. I don't care how much they offer me for it.
Right, and when you gotta keep the nicest ones, otherwise you're always gonna have to try to tell people that you have found nicer ones, and they're never gonna believe you.
Right.
So you gotta keep your nice. It's helpful to have your nicest ones. So we have a nice range of these ones. This card is one of the newer cards. These ones right here are really nice. And the thing about copper agates is about you want a nice contrast, you want nice banding, and sometimes like this one it suffers from not great contrast despite having great banding and great shape and everything else. But it is a really nice stone, so don't get me wrong. But it could be a little better if it had more contrast like that one. But this one has the light bands are kind of weird. Then see, there's a wide range of copper agates, so not all of them are creative. Look at these ones, like that's barely got anything going on. But that one's it's nice and clear. Has some different. There's all kinds of different shapes. And you have a little wiggle room with the shape, but it's a natural product where you kind of just go with where it can go. Got some nice cool ones here. This one's got some nice banding there. This one has more of a pre-night one. And then the thing about when it isn't, and it has other minerals in it, for some reason it very rarely has much of a banding in it. So when it has pre-night like that, you're very rarely going to get a good banding. You usually have a little like a splotch of it like that. Same with I don't think I have any of the pre-night ones that are like fully pre-night, but sometimes they'll be kind of fibrous and they'll have kind of a neat like look to them. Here's nice, same kind of thing. It has all that green there, but then it doesn't have a whole lot going on with that kind of situation. And this one is a really nice one here.
I was looking at the greenstone for a second. You do greenstones too, huh?
I do an occasional greenstone. They're pretty nice, but copper agates are definitely my favorite. But I try to make sure I always have a little bit of greenstone in there. This one's got some cool eyes. This one's been around for a little long. I made a mistake of this one was so fancy that I had several offers right away, and I didn't want to get rid of it right away because I wasn't sure. And now it's still sitting around. I asked for a little too much on the first part, but it's still a really nice one. But when you just finish them, you don't want to. It's hard
like your little babies.
Yeah. But they are generally always mostly for sale unless they're the really nicest ones. It's like this one is actually the world's largest one ever found. And as far as I can tell, I've shown it to lots of people, and I've said that to lots of people with the intention of them telling me I'm wrong.
Can I touch it?
You sure can. And this one, and the problem is it's got such a weird shape that you can't cut in half, and it's kind of hard to tell that it's copper agate, except for the fact that there were other nice copper agates in the same piece of ore. And you can see the calcine there, and calcine doesn't necessarily mean copper agate, but in the location that was found, you don't really find calcine without at least some without agatization in it. And there's a bunch of nice banding there. It's kind of like an oil slick on the outside. And I just didn't want to ruin it's a good specimen piece as it is too.
So if that's the biggest one, I mean, they tend to be. I mean, we're looking at some of these. They're tiny.
Yeah, these are usually just
pretty normal for them to be really small. Huh?
This one's kind of nice. It has good banding in there and stuff, and all the ones with a nice banding, they go really fast usually when it has really good distinctive banding. Here's a couple ones that have. This one has really nice band in it, but the contrast when they pop out is definitely a fan favorite. These ones have some good contrast. I'm pretty sure these ones are from this one's from the St. Louis mine specifically. But I didn't find these two, like pretty much everything else here I found, but except for these two right here. I got those show. Here's a couple.
So what makes somebody like you that has all these copper agates buy some at a show? That's a really nice eye on that one on the left there.
He had them for a really good price, and I had to do a little prep on them. And what the reason why I did specifically is I could tell that if I cut them a little deeper, they'd have a lot more distinctive banding, because it looked like they didn't go as deep as they probably should have.
Okay.
And I could tell that between the price point and just what they looked like, I could make them look a little better and sell them for a little better. And there were 8 of them originally. There's only 2 left from the group I bought there. So the other ones did sell a little better. These ones haven't moved yet, but they still got some coolness going on.
Okay, so we're talking about selling these things. What's the value of these? I know are these the most rare kind of agates?
People call them most rare kind of agates. The problem with agates is if you really get into it can be a regional thing, and you can be like, well, this is a specific agate from this specific thing. But it is definitely the rarest commercial desirable agate, where some people can actually it's findable, and not like the thing where you just kind of like arbitrarily add a couple qualifiers to the name of the agate. Yes, these are considered one of the rarest agates in the world, if you, depending on how you kind of put asterisks next to it, but this is the widely available most rare one.
And are they only found in the Keweenaw Peninsula?
Only found in the Keweenaw. There are other types of copper agate-esque things that you can find that are found elsewhere. But so a lot of times when you talk to someone that you mention copper agates, like, oh, I've seen copper agates, and then you see what they see. It's really like quartz with little specks of copper in it, or other little things that are like. There was one that almost looked like crazy lace agate that had like some weirdness to it, but definitely was not any kind of banding. So if you're looking for banded agates with copper, the Keweenaw is literally the only place that they come from. And you can get, if you just want copper in something that does exist elsewhere, but if you want this kind of stuff, it's all about the Keweenaw.
So prices.
So just generally between $50 and $400.
You sell a lot wholesale, so is that a wholesale price or a retail price?
That would be more the retail price. I mean, if I'm selling a whole bunch of them, I can usually do a little lower on that kind of thing at once. But part of it is like the copper agates. I waste a lot of time on not good copper agates that don't turn out. And
right.
these are the ones I did finish. You know, like most of the time it tends to be chlorite or any other thing that I have a pile. I have just piles of nodules that are like partly cut into. I just have a little bit of copper showing, but as soon as I realize that they're not going to be anything, I just throw them aside. So for every single good one that you see here, that represents probably multiple days of actual to get that one really good one. And that's why I finished kind of the lower end ones too. But the really nice ones take a lot of effort, and even the small ones tend to take quite a bit of effort.
So what percent would you say you scrap?
90%.
Oh wow.
At least. It's hard to say because you can scrap through them really quick, but once you start working on a good one, that can take an hour just to get it ready for the stick.
Right.
So it's easy to it's hard to say exactly. I'd say probably somewhere around 90% because you can. I'm a little better now, but even now, everything can look right, and it can even technically be a copper agate, but it won't have any agatization. It'll just have a little bit of quartz there, and it'll have like a splotch of copper, and it won't turn out anything really good. I don't know if I have any good examples here, but like right here, like that one is basically just a chunk of copper, or a chunk of quartz with a little ring of copper around it. So that has like some stuff going on. But I was trying to make sure they're nice and ready for silversmiths to get them in there. Have an easier time for cutting and stuff.
All right. Well, this has been really interesting and educational. People are going to ask where to buy them. So
I have a website. I usually sell directly. So if you get a hold of me on there, I'd be happy to work with anyone that's interested in copper agates. I'm going to have a card here, and it sounds like they're going to add a link to the thing. But
I'll put a link in the description, but we'll put the card up also.
There's my card.
Oh, thank you very much, Eric. This has been really, really fun. Nice little stop on our trip. We're headed to the Keweenaw. We're actually in Marquette right now, so we're heading up to the Keweenaw for several days of rock hunting. You feeling encouraged?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm also headed to Minnesota right after this, so.
What are you doing in Minnesota?
I'm working at a mine, at an internship for the summer, so we're gonna have fun there too.
Iron mine.
Iron mine, yeah.
All right. I'm planning to go visit him at some point too, so maybe we'll see Sam in Minnesota. All right. Thanks again, and we'll see everybody next time.